See, members of council, what we did at committee, it's here without a recommendation at committee. Councillor DiCiano to speak.
Thanks, Madam Speaker. I've got a motion that City Council adopt the following recommendations contained in the supplementary report of September the 28th, 2016 from the General Manager of Parks, Forestry and Recreation and the City Solicitor, GM 14.10a. 1. City Council direct that confidential attachment 1 remain confidential in its entirety as it relates to specific privileged third-party financial information and legal advice subject to solicitor-client privilege. I just want to, I know we went into camera and we discussed this issue, and it's been a very contentious issue for many that live in the community and for the local councillor. But we need to live by the decisions we make. And we need to understand that we need to understand what those decisions are and what happened here. There is a lease that the city signed, whether it was sole sourced or it went through an RFP, there was a lease signed with a food operator. Now, a lease, in the most basic sense of the term, is a series of clauses. Some are specific, but most of them are standard clauses. Some clauses are in favor of the landlord, and some clauses are in favor of the tenant. The right to assign clause is one of those clauses that you get in almost every commercial lease. And that clause is always in favor of the tenant. So we do not have the right not to assign this lease to anyone or to deny the assignment of this lease to anyone as long as the tenant that owns the rights to this lease is in good standing. We have no legal basis to stand on. If we were to deny an agreement that we signed, a clause in favor of the tenant, we would be taken to court and sued. And it wouldn't be pretty. So although we have a situation that far too many people don't like, the community, the councillor, many people in this hall, we have to live with the decision we made. What kind of a precedent would we set here in Toronto if we went out and made agreements with organizations and then for no reason, I don't want to say no reason, but just went against the contractual agreement that we signed? We need to abide by the decisions we made, live up to the decisions we made, and move forward with the staff recommendations. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Layton.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I just wanted to make a very quick observation about this item that's before us now. The more I get to understand the history behind why it was sole sourced, because it was the continuation of a lease to lengthen a lease period in order to do some upgrades to the building, sounds a lot similar to what we're dealing with right now at Exhibition Place that we will eventually have to vote on here, where a particular leasee wants to extend the lease term by 10 years, sole source extension of a lease term by 10 years, because he says the money that he guaranteed and the work he guaranteed to do to the heritage building can't be done because he needs 10 more years to pay back some other improvements. It's just strikingly similar to the situation we're at there. I think the other observation I'd like to make, in particular around licensing of parkland and beach areas, again, we need to be very, very careful when we're sole sourcing or not. Very, very careful when we're looking at these contracts, like we did earlier today with changing the parameters of a lease, albeit this was originally at the request of the applicant to remove some statuary that was there. We will be voting on a similar thing to return again a public good to full control of the public. Some interesting similarities that we'll talk about, no doubt, in the coming months. Over and over again.
Thank you. Councillor Karygiannis?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I have been in business before I got in politics and continue to be in business today, involved with my daughters that rent a studio out in the East End. What I'm hearing here today, I'm seeing a landlord that says, I can do whatever I want. I can come into your place anytime I want. I can change the lease anytime I want. And I want to withhold from you permission for you to continue to survive. This is exactly what we're doing here today. We're politicians, and some of us are probably career politicians, been elected for a long time. Some of us probably have absolutely no experience in doing business, and that's fine. But put yourself in the shoes of the individual that is running a business. All of a sudden, he has to face us as landlords, and we can make a decision, and away we go. He can't sue us as individuals. He can sue the city, and the city's got big pockets. And this individual out there that wants to continue his business, excuse me. Thank you. And this individual that wants to continue doing his business, if he wants to take us on, he probably will have to go bankrupt in order for him to fight us. It's like fighting City Hall. You never win. And you got some councillors in this chamber that stand up, and it's the same rhetoric all over again. Well, I don't like him, or I don't like her because. Well, guess what, folks? Get used to it. I'm going to put my time on.
Yes. Point of privilege, Councillor McMahon.
I hope you're not referring to me.
That,
I take
of
offense to those words.
he was not referring to you, Councillor McMahon. Okay, Councillor.
However, when a particular community or a councillor goes out and does an email run to us, folks, we got 1,028 emails on this issue alone. That was locally driven. Locally driven. 1,028 emails. For what? For us to change our mind. Just because somebody down there didn't like it. Well, guess what? We are in an agreement. We're in a law-abiding agreement, and all of a sudden you say, we're going to wipe it out. I just want the people that were in business in this room to 30 seconds think exactly of what we're doing. If you're not in business and you're solely in politics, well, then you don't know the other world. There's a reality out there, and that reality states clearly, we must abide by the rules of engagement. You just don't get 45 people in a room and say, whoa, the room of engagement is going to change, just because we feel like it. We're destroying people's lives. We're destroying a business. We're destroying people that work in that business just because we don't like it. Or maybe the local councillor does not like it, or maybe I don't like it. 1,028 emails. I haven't had a run at the bank like that. Congratulations to whoever drafted those emails and sent it to us. I know most of you didn't see it. Most of you just went into the garbage can. But I got to tell you, when I counted 1,028 emails, I'm going to myself, wow, there's a run at the bank. The run at the bank should be that we should support the individual that we signed the lease with. And I leave it to you, if you have 1 ounce of business and business know-how, you just don't shut people down. Because you are elected and you got power to do so. That's not the way the city should work. That's not the way that we should decide things. When it comes to a business, there's rules of engagement. And just because we got lawyers in big pockets doesn't mean that we drive those businesses to the ground and we kill them. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Councillor Shiner.
You know, Madam Speaker, wasn't the issue I really wanted to speak on today. But Councillor DiCiano's comments and comments from Councillor Karygiannis and Councillor DiCiano's motion, I have some concerns because the staff recommendations were not to keep things confidential. Not that I see here. And I think, first of all, the public's entitled to know what we do. We shouldn't be keeping secrets from them. It's their land and their space. And he also said, took a position, you should stay with your position. I did. My position was against this from the beginning. It was sole sourced. It didn't seem to be a good deal. It gave someone a leg up, but it was put in front of this council when I was there by saying the person just wants to renovate their building, and without a lease they can't renovate, and they want to continue in business. So an agreement was put not just for that, but for additional control of the waterfront, which my colleague, Councillor McMahon, has been speaking of the difficulties that her residents face and other people face when they try to use the land. So what's in front of us? Councillor Karagianis is saying he's concerned we're going to put someone out of business, but we're not stopping them. Cara's rented the place. They're paying rent. Continues to flow for the building. Not stopping that at all. Not harming anybody, because the business that was there is gone. It's a new business that's in the place. The rent is flowing. It's being paid. I can't really see the harm to the individual. If he's able to rent it out and get his money, then pay the city every month. Somebody wants to assign that to someone else and get a cash out, a payout, but not the whole deal. If he wanted to assign that to someone and give back to the city the rights for the city parkland, which my colleague Councillor McMahon has asked us to try and get, that would seem like a fair deal. Saying, I have a problem here. I've been having a problem with the restaurant, but I've got someone else to operate it. It's a donut shop. That's okay. That'll let me out of it. I have no obligations, and I'll probably get some payment for my renovations. I have no idea what it is. And the rest of it, I'm not going to control the city property anymore, because I'm not the guy running the restaurant. The whole idea was a package. To be able to run the restaurant successfully, the argument that I recall was, I also need to be able to control events there so I won't have the competition from somebody else on the site. Well, now you're renting out the restaurant. You're not operating there anymore. You're not giving it to your assignee. You're keeping it for yourself. Well, that's not the deal. That's not putting someone in business out of business. And as a matter of fact, it's a bad business deal for the city. So I don't accept the arguments that are there that you're going to put someone out of business and all this harm. I didn't like the deal in the first place. I didn't think we should sole source. I didn't agree to extending and thought it was good to extend the rights across the whole public spaces, which happened. Someone did a renovation, didn't work out too well, but they've been able to find a tenant for the property and we're not stopping them from renting it. That's okay. But to start assignments and letting people cash out on city property and just make big capital gains because they happen to be able to get this deal, which is what it looks like, and not give back the public part of the land, not give back the right for that community to be there, I think is a problem. And you know, if I see 1,028 emails that have come from an active community, I say, wow, people care. They care enough to take the time to send us 1,028 emails. And I think my colleagues here on council, if they had a stack of that in support of something they wanted, would be putting it on top of the table to show how many people are in support of what they're asking for. Because I've seen that. Because that's a lot of community involvement. So I have real concern in going forward with the assignment here. I personally think that it's something that we probably shouldn't do today. We should sit down instead with the person that has the rights and see if we can work with them and have a discussion or a conversation as to how they can best get out of their obligations in the lease. It can be assigned to somebody else. They can then have that ability to get out, and we can get back our parkland at the same time. So unfortunately, I can't support the recommendations to assign the lease, because I think that we should be having our staff go further with this. If we say no, some action will transpire, and then it will cause us all to sit down and see if we can really work this out, where the city gets its land back, the community gets the use of the land, and then the space that's there and the rent that's there continues. And I don't see the big harm right now because of the fact that there is a flow of cash for rent of it. So I don't see the head lessee having a real problem, being Tuggs, as they're collecting money every month for the rent.
Thank you. No, Councillor DiCiano, I have some business I have to do first. Please, no, just a motion to extend to finish the item and for the confirming bill. All in favor? Carried. Okay.